Unity of Houston is an inclusive church where we seek to understand and live the teachings of Jesus and other spiritual masters. At Unity, we welcome all people from all spiritual paths and every walk of life. We celebrate the diversity of our city and of our world, and we teach love, tolerance, and oneness, seeking to live in harmony with open minds and open hearts.
Wherever you are in your spiritual path, you are always welcome at Unity. Join us and discover that the life of your dreams is already within you.
Such a truth, and it aligns perfectly with what we teach in Unity. That all of this pain and struggle and strife and conflict out in the world, it's not who we are. It's not the truth of us. And there is a way, there is a gate, there is a doorway to re-enter that garden, that beautiful what's the word I'm looking for? Symbolic meaning, the Garden of Eden, the place where we are one with all that is. And Jesus called it the kingdom of heaven. And he did say it is within us. That's what we're about. So today is part 3 of our series on the 4 great mantras of life created, or at least distilled by Angeles Arian, a wonderful anthropologist. We talked first week about how we got to show up. Presence is the gift we bring to living life fully. And the second week, last week, we talked about paying attention to what is meaning and heart for us. And that's where we connect to that livingness of life. And today we're going to talk about tell the truth. And it's not telling the truth in that don't lie, although that's a good thing too. We really recommend honesty as a good policy. But it's telling the deeper truth, the spiritual truth of who and what we are. And when we consciously connect to that indwelling presence, that Christ mind, when we begin to see, when Jesus said, greater things shall those do who come after me, that you are the light of the world. That phrase is recorded twice in the Gospels. Jesus did say, I am the light of the world. And he also said, you. Don't you know? You are the light of the world. There is a kinship to what Jesus brought us as the Christed one, that we have that capacity, that potentiality within us too, to rise into that consciousness and to live from that truth. And these 4 mantras, next week we're going to talk about don't be attached to results. I'm saving the best for last. Show up. Pay attention. Tell the truth. And don't be attached. This is a way of living that moves us towards that path of the Christed one that each of us is. And in that place is where we begin to manifest, to demonstrate a different order of reality in our lives. This is where our prosperity teaching comes from. This is where our teaching on healing comes from. It's all getting back to that garden. Getting back to the deeper truth before our conditioned mind told us a lie about who and what we are. I have a joke somewhere that I should probably go ahead and give it to you. You may not need it, but I'm going to because I like this one. Thank you, Lyle, who supplies me and minister jokes. Well, if I can get to it. Oh, there we go. For the past 21 years, my wife has been complaining about me not putting the cap back on the toothpaste. So last anniversary, I decided to change this bad habit and make my wife happy. For a week, I was diligent, always capping the toothpaste, and I expected her to thank me. She never did. Finally, last night, she turned to me angrily, and she looked at me, she said, "Why have you stopped brushing your teeth?" Different perceptions of reality, yes? I'm going to be talking about that in 3 ways today. This is a quote from Angeles Arian's book, The Fourfold Path. Talking about the third path. When we follow the way of the visionary, that's what is the tell the truth is the way of the visionary. We're able to make the truth visible. In indigenous cultures, visionaries may be shamans or artisans, but what is more important, these societies encourage all members to seek and express their own truth. The principle that guides the visionary is telling the truth without blame or judgment. This visionary archetype the relentless power within us that constantly extends an invitation to be who we are, requires the expression of authenticity, vision, and creativity. I love when the book I'm reading gives me my 3 sermon points. Let's talk about authenticity. I heard a baby earlier. Where's that little baby? I think he's still here. So sweet. I love babies in the sanctuary, by the way. I really do. During the meditation, it just took me to that innocence that I was hoping to remind us all of, that beautiful innocence. And if you ever see a newborn completely, utterly dependent, helpless, and beautiful, there's a story, I'm sure it's made up, but it works well in sermon illustrations, about the 3-year-old that goes into his little baby sister's nursery, and his mom overheard him, and he said, "Tell me about heaven. I'm starting to forget." There is an unconscious connection that a newborn has to all that is before any parental abuse or simply passing on of the old ancestral pain. I'm reading this wonderful book by David Brooks, which, Pam Lewis, what's the name of it again? How to Know a Person. Brilliant book. Pam is hosting one of our Fun with Friends events around that book. But he says that, and I don't know if this is David or if this is David Brooks or another quote, I couldn't remember, but he said that pain that is not transformed is transmitted. Pain that is not transformed is transmitted. And so our parents were not able to transform all of their pain that they had inherited from their parents, so they transmitted it to us. And we have transmitted all the pain that we have not yet transformed to others and to our children. And it's kind of a depressing thought. But it's just the way we are on this path of evolution and becoming. That we're never going to be perfect. There's always going to be a healing, and every point of pain is an invitation to wholeness. Every point of pain in your life is an invitation to wholeness. And so I don't know what your biggest problem is, but I know it's probably got you going right now. There's something in your life, whether it be a troubled relationship, a financial problem, something going on in your health, that there's something that's just like, it's up. What if instead of seeing it as something you wish you could just push away, that it was something you could begin to see into it, to a deeper level of reality? There is gold here for me. If I can get back to the garden, back to the truth of who I am, something will be revealed here. But we carry around these false beliefs, these conditioned thoughts that were inherited about who and what we are. My friend Dr. Kathy Hearn says that a false belief is formed by a child's mind in response to an adult situation. Every kid that goes through divorce thinks it's their fault. You tell them it's not, you know it's not, but there is that egocentric little mind that is coming into its own, and it's just making sense of reality. We all have it. We did it as children, and now we carry those unhealed parts of our childhood. And so we don't see ourselves rightly. In order to embody this way of the healer and the path of authenticity, we have to begin to see past our own conditioning and perspectives to a deeper truth of who and what we are, where no harm has ever been done by or to us in the spiritual realm. And this is the kind of authenticity we're talking about. And we also have to tell the truth about our human experience to get to the spiritual truth. So part of our authentic expression is just to say what is without judgment or blame, to simply talk about, this is what I'm experiencing right now. In this moment, I'm afraid you're going to leave. In this moment, I'm feeling like you're going to hurt me. Just begin to speak those ways where we can, probably not to the grocery store checkout person, but just begin to tell the truth in a way that is, this is what I'm experiencing. I need a moment here. And when we begin to speak in this authentic way, it opens the door for us to get past the conditioned mind, to get ourselves back to the garden, to get ourselves back to the place of wholeness And if we say back, many of us don't have any conscious memory of ever being there before. We've forgotten that we are already whole. We are already complete. We are already enough. I love this quote. It's in our new members ceremony, and the psychiatrist's name escapes me in this moment, Anderson, but he says, "What I am is always enough if I'm willing to be it openly." It is our editing and hiding of our authentic experience and nature that keeps us locked into the pain. The first step, if you remember, we did the series on the 12 steps for everybody. The first step is always to admit what is going on is actually going on. And that opens a door to freedom. I attended a recovery meeting in Florida this week, and it was a wonderful meeting and a lot of kind of raw recovery in the room. And there was one particular person, she had said she had been in the program for 20 years, but had less than a year's sobriety at this moment. But she spoke with such power and authenticity. And she was talking about that first step in the 12 steps, which is we admitted we were powerless, that our lives had become unmanageable. And she said, this is the only step. I don't actually have to do anything, but just say what is. This is already true. But until I can admit that this is happening, I'm stuck. And so there's a great power in telling the truth about what is happening at the human level. Because that opens us to finding the deeper truth. The second quality that we need is vision. You're more than you think you are, my brothers, my sisters. Vision is about discerning essence that goes beyond form. Vision is about beginning to sense into the more than I'm seeing. Because here's the thing, none of us is actually seeing reality. This is from David Brooks' book, How to See a Person. This is just an illustration. He talked about this. In 1951, there was a particularly brutal football game between Dartmouth and Princeton. Afterward, fans of both teams were furious because they felt the opposing team had been so vicious. When psychologists had students rewatch a film of the game in a calmer setting, the students still fervently believed that the other side had committed twice as many penalties as their own side. And when challenged about their own biases, both sides pointed to the game film as objective proof that their side was right. Any other sports fans here? It's part of the fun for me of being a sports fan is that all my dualism and absolute shadow projection, it's a safe place to just be that. There's an enemy, and it's that team. My team, they're righteous and honorable warriors, fighting for the good. I can just feel that. And the other team, they're just down dirty snakes. You know, it's just the way it is. It's not. But for me, it's fun. I really do enjoy having, like I said, it's a safe place to have my duality, my dualism come into being. But do you get that? They're looking at the exact same thing and saying, no, the opposite is true. Has anybody else ever experienced this? Yeah. The objective reality that we're seeing is not the objective reality. It's what we are seeing. And so as we begin to want to live from vision, once we begin to be authentic about what's going on, we can see that we can feel the qualities of spirit that are seeking to emerge in every situation, and it's not about the facts. It's not about the things that you can measure. And, there's sometimes, I don't know about you, but sometimes in relationships, I'm actually not really honoring the person I'm with. I'm just collecting evidence. Thank you, Richard, for raising your hand, brave soul. Yeah, I've already got a case in my mind that I'm building about how I'm right and you're wrong. And so everything you do, I'm just collecting more evidence. There she goes. Yep. Just like I knew she would. Right. It's not objective reality. It is my perception. And in vision, what we want to do is begin to, and this is a spiritual process. Michael Beckwith says, pain pushes until vision pulls. pain pushes us until vision begins to pull. We begin to sense there is something higher, greater, deeper, more meaningful than I have yet experienced that is calling my heart forward. And that pain will push us to that point until we're ready to admit, to open, to change. Everybody loves to change, don't we? We just love change, particularly when it's the change that was unlooked for and unasked for. Those are our favorite. But that is the point of our healing. That is the point of being open to visioning. Michael Beckwith also created a 5-question process for visioning, which I've been doing for many, many years. When I first felt the call to ministry, I pushed it away. Like, that's for somebody else. Wrong number, God. I don't want anything to do with that. But I felt something. It had no form. I knew for sure I was not going to be a pastor of a church. That much I was clear on. It's about essence, not form. But there were 2 women and I, we were good friends, Chris and Alva, and we met for years, once a month, in one of our homes, and we would do this process of asking the questions. What is the high vision for my life? Or if it's a specific things, what is the highest vision for my ministry? What must I become for this vision to be manifest? What must I release? What must I embody? And then the last question is always, is there more information I need at this time? And then it's an intuitive process where you begin to feel, sense exactly what I'm talking about. It's something we sense. It's not about objective facts and figures. There is a feeling, because the vision is not just held in the facts of what are currently embodied. It is the potential for something new coming forward. And we did this for years. And here's an example of the way it works. Like, I would get a word. This word would come, and I was like, prepare. That word came up for every visioning I did for years. Like, why? Clearly, I've got to prepare. What does that mean? Prepare. But it was a very strong word. It was an essential word for my ministry. Well, there were a couple of times I was already a musician in this movement, so people knew me. People said, oh, you want to become a minister? Come over here. I'll get you ordained in 3 weeks. And I had begun visioning, and I knew that my ministry was about preparation. It's not about taking shortcuts. And I'm an Enneagram 3. We love a shortcut. But the vision was speaking to me. That's not the way here. That's not the way. I could tell you a lot more about that. Just one last thing. I've shared this. My very first Sunday I was senior minister, I told you this story, that I saw big ships in my visioning, like an image of a ship. I was like, what the heck is that? And I just saw it. I wrote it down, image of a ship, and then later I would contemplate it. It's like, sometimes I would ask, show me what's here in this image. And things would reveal themselves to me, like these giant, beautiful ocean-liner ships I saw. They're built with 4-inch thick steel. They're strong preparation. They've been well prepared for all seas. It's like, that's the feeling tone of my ministry. I want something that is strong, well built. And boy, we've had some storms since I've been minister here. I was here just a couple of weeks, and Michael Beckwith and Ricky Byers were here on a Friday night. We did an event with them, and I love them. I've known them a long time, and just a great event. And afterwards, I was talking about some of my new community members, and one of them said to me, he no longer is here, he's in San Diego, but he said, I just got a sense you're our next senior minister. Well, I had no idea if I wanted to do that or not. Pretty sure Howard didn't know if he wanted me to do that or not. And I said something like, no, I don't know about that. It's just, we'll see what happens. I was feeling something, though. And he said, no, Michael, this is your ship. I didn't get it then. You got it. I was living in Meyerland at the time, and I was driving home. It's like, that was odd. Because I could definitely feel something calling me to leadership, to community, and something. And then I suddenly realized as I'm turning the corner into my neighborhood, I saw the front of our sanctuary, which looks like a prow of a ship. And just this, whoa, God, what have you done to me now? And that was long before Reverend Howard had made his selection for his successor. It was long before I was really into it, ready to make that decision myself. But the vision knew. There was a vision. I had been listening. I had been paying attention and feeling into it. And it pulled me forward to be here with you today. The last piece I want to talk about is creativity. How many of you think that only artists are creative? Good. Nobody raised their hands because you are good Unitarians, New Thought, Truth students. You know creativity is what we're all about. From a spiritual perspective, when we are in the garden, inhabiting the kingdom, when we are in our Christ mind, we have creative power. The same power that said, let there be light, and there was light is in us. We have the power to demonstrate new and higher forms in all of our world experiences. And many of us who've been around here for a while, we've done it. We've been metaphysicians for a long time. We have taken these principles and practices and transformed our money. We've transformed and healed our bodies. We have healed our relationships, still working on that one. We have done what we need to be doing. Actually, my relationships are mostly good. And I'm still continuing to do the work of bringing that garden mind to all of it, with a creative power that's given to each of us. I was thinking about, years ago I had the experience, I think it was at the Museum of Modern Art in New York. It was the first time I saw the Starry, Starry Night by Vincent van Gogh, the painting, and just incredible that the life, the energy, the movement, the power that man who struggled with mental illness with a very limited set of resources was able to create the universe. And there was another painting. It was very small. It was in the little room where he stayed. There was lots of yellow, and I think there may have been sunflowers. I know there was a chair, but it's a small little painting. And taking these very limited resources was able to create something magnificent. None of us are Vincent van Gogh. We only needed one of those. But the same potential, the same capacity to take what is here and create something expanded, meaningful, and deep, that's available to each one of us in our very lives. When we talk about authenticity, I said we're not seeing ourselves rightly. We're talking about vision, and we're not seeing, what was that one I said about that? I want to make sure I get this right. Yeah, we're not seeing objective reality. We're seeing our perception, and here we're not seeing potential rightly. In creativity, there is more potential here than you know. Whatever it is that's going on in your life, there is the potential for something new. And so the creative power that I'm asking us all to begin to speak the truth of is that God is here. Divine creative intelligence is here. I don't know how God's going to do anything with all this mess, but I know God is going to do something here. In the Bible, in the Hebrew Bible, there is a wonderful story of Abram and Sarai. You know this story? God made a deal, a covenant, a contract with Abram and said, your offspring will outnumber the stars in heaven. And Abram said, well, that's a good joke because my wife and I are way beyond this having any springing off. You know what I'm saying? No offspring coming here. We're old. And God said, no, there's more here in potentiality than you know, and breathed his own breath into them. Sarah, Abraham, their names were changed to signify this new covenant of possibility. And a little while later, here comes Isaac, a miracle. Jesus had this same capacity to see more than was currently objectively there. These humble, working men, fishermen, poor people. He said, drop your nets and follow me. You're more than you think you are. I will make you fishers of men. Starting a worldwide movement, the largest religion on the planet. More people know of Jesus of Nazareth than any other human being that has ever lived. Movement was created by some simple, uneducated fishermen because Jesus saw something more in them. And we're not going to argue, was Christianity a good thing or a bad thing to be done to humanity? We'll talk about that some other time. Like everything else, it's both. The Chosen, you like it, right? I just called you out. I've several friends, some of my evangelical friends have said, you really need to see this. And I have a little hesitation around this TV show about Jesus and his disciples called The Chosen. But truth be told, I've only watched one episode and I judged it the whole time. Until the final scene. In the depiction, Mary Magdalene is mentally ill, addicted, a sex worker. I mean, we're not sure that any of that was true of her historically. There's a lot of, if you read the Da Vinci Code, you know that there was a conspiracy to make her this kind of bad person, when in actuality she was the most beloved disciple. She was a teacher. Anyway, I'm off track. But in the show, The Chosen, she is depicted as someone who's deeply troubled. And in her life in this dark time, she uses a different name than the one she was given. And the first time she meets Jesus, in her troubled state, he looks at her and he just says, "Mary." And I burst into tears like I'm doing right now. Because that's what Spirit does to us. It sees beyond our limited ideas of who and what we are, and it says, "I know you. There is more here than you have yet attempted to demonstrate. There is more here than you know. You are greater than you have ever thought yourself to be." And this creative power is speaking your name, the deepest name. No matter how much limitation you feel like you're against, no matter how many times you've tried and it hasn't got better, no matter how far down you have gone, the Spirit of life itself is whispering your name. It knows who you are. And it's telling you the truth. You are more than you know. Pray with me. There is something calling us, something whispering our deepest, truest name. Holy Spirit, God, Allah, Jehovah, Buddha, this whatever name we have for this higher consciousness. Spirit, divine creative intelligence knows us. We are of its own being, and it is reminding us, whispering to us, that we are more, that we are free, that we are whole. And in this moment, what I trust is that each of us is now willing to be more of who and what we truly are, to release those fears and those judgments, to begin to step beneath our conditioned mind and negative self-talk and criticism and go, yes, I am more. I am more. And this opening and allowing, this surrender begins to be a portal of new energy. Divine ideas come to our mind. A new loving response and connectedness comes to our hearts. Our bodies rise up and take up new ways of being that are healthful and more in alignment with life itself. We are healed. We are healed. So I'm trusting that this path of healing and revelation continues in us from the moment we took our first breath until we lay these bodies down. We continue to rise in consciousness and awareness of the indwelling power of God. And so today we become more free, more available, and we are grateful. And so it is. Amen. I'm really moved, because when I look out at you, I don't see your problems. I don't see, because you do, you're looking at that enough. What I see is that potentiality for you to be an opening for God. And I love all of you. And I mean not just all of you, but all that you are and all that you're not. If no one has told you today that they love you, I love you. God bless you.
Thank you for watching this message today. I'd like to invite you to join us in person here on campus at Unity of Houston for Sunday morning or Wednesday evening services. If you can't be with us here on our campus, you can still join us live on Facebook or on our website, unityhouston.org, Sunday mornings at 11 a.m. Central.